In this video, I'm going to teach you how to terraform your Minecraft world using WorldEdit. The autumn scene shown here might not be the most amazing landscape you've ever seen, but the key takeaway here is that I made this in just 20 minutes. WorldEdit gives us some very powerful tools for sculpting, painting, and decorating our landscape. So, without further ado, let's dive in. The star of the show here is the brush command. This lets us bind a WorldEdit operation to a tool such as this wooden shovel. For example, if I type brush, cylinder, grass block 6.2, this will now generate grass cylinders with a radius of 6 every time I right click. To unbind the brush, just type brush unbind, and our shovel becomes a regular shovel once again. Similarly, if we wanted to do the opposite, we could do brush cylinder air 6.2, and this will basically convert a cylinder to air, which effectively lowers the terrain. You can also do brush lower cylinder 6, which is effectively the same. If you want to have multiple brushes active at a time, you need to make sure you use a different tool for each one. For example, the wooden shovel could be bound to raise, and the wooden axe could be bound to lower. This means that we can easily switch between the two and very quickly sculpt our terrain. Don't worry if it looks terrible at first. Things always look a little bad at the start, but it will quickly shape up once you start adding more details and decoration. Once you have some basic terrain, another brush I like to use is the smooth brush. Let's give ourselves a wooden hoe and type brush smooth 6. This gives us a brush that will just smooth the edges of the terrain and make it look a bit more natural. If you want to make the effect more pronounced, you can add another parameter to control the strength. So for example, brush smooth 6.2 will be twice as strong. Now, one thing I like to do, rather than just having a bunch of random tools in my inventory, is I like to name them. And you can do this with a command. For example, if I just paste in this command here, that gives me a wooden hoe, which is called paint terrain. So I know straight away what this tool is for. All the commands used here will be in the description. So, to paint our terrain, we're going to use the cylinder brush again, but instead of something like grass block or air block, we're going to use a pattern. And a pattern lets us specify different blocks with weightings which will be applied randomly to the terrain. For example, we can type 5% dirt path, 5% coarse dirt, 5% cobblestone, and 90% grass block. It doesn't matter if the values don't add up to 100 because they're not actually percentages, they're weightings. So the numbers only matter relative to each other. In this example, dirt path, coarse dirt, and cobblestone are all equally likely, but the grass block is significantly more likely than any of them because we want that to be the most common block that we see. This means that when we right click, it's going to paint the terrain randomly using the pattern that we specified. Now, one important note here, when we right click at the edge of a raised part of our terrain, we're actually extending that terrain, which is not necessarily what we want. And this is where masks come in. For example, if we type mask grass block, then only grass blocks will be affected by this operation. So the air blocks next to the grass aren't going to change. This means we can paint freely and it won't affect the shape of our terrain. I forgot to specify the radius of the cylinder, but we can make that something like 6 to give us a wider area. There we go, not the most exciting landscape in the world, but you can see the potential. I'm going to give myself another tool now, and this is called Add Decoration. This works exactly like painting the terrain, except now we're painting the air just above the terrain. So we're going to include air in our pattern because that's kind of the default block, but let's also chuck in some dark oak logs, and I don't know, some lily of the valleys. We're going to change our mask as well because we don't want to affect grass blocks. We actually only want to affect air blocks this time. Now, as we right click, we're pasting dark oak logs and these lovely flowers. One thing you might notice is that when we paste at the edge of our terrain, sometimes the decoration blocks actually overhang the terrain. I haven't yet figured out a good solution to this, but it's something just to watch out for. Hi, Future Quilby here. I just realized that if you type /brush gravity 6, for example, that will actually push any floating blocks down to the ground. So that's a nice quick fix for the floating decoration problem. Back to you, past Quilby. Last but not least, I'm going to give myself a snow tool. This one's super easy, it's just brush, snow, cylinder 6. And we're going to type /mask to just disable the mask that we set previously. This tool, as you might have guessed from the name, is just going to put snow on top of our terrain. If you want the snow to stack, you can also add a /s parameter. And that's going to stack the snow higher and higher if we click on the same area multiple times, which gives us some nice levels. You can see how this hasn't taken us very long at all, but already we've got this lovely landscape here. Hopefully you found this helpful, and you can see just how powerful WorldEdit is. Not very long ago we had a plain old super flat world here, and now we have some fairly convincing snowy terrain. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, then subscribe for more, and I will see you next time.